before I get to Flourish website, I want to tell you some things that you also sent and replied to my initial questionnaire. So simplifying without losing rigor was one of them. And for example, this graphic and from Cohen van de Eekhout is okay. It's not wrong, and but we for the readers and for people to get it better and really get the information, we can add or change like some things, like adding the axes and putting these labels, and that helps to clarify more the information to mark what we want to intend to communicate better. And these are simple changes we can do to graphics. Like this is okay, like this is good made, like you can do this in Excel and it's perfectly fine. And but this is another layer of information. And so I put here a highlight. Sometimes clean visuals sacrifice interpretability. A beautiful chart may be less useful if it hides the data, as this one. And rigor and clarity go hand in hand. Good lines make the chart more accessible and accurate. And actually, in the newspaper, we flip it. Like actually, all the axes, like X, Y, we put it on the right because we see like people reading better like that and not starting with information here. The same, another example, like this graphic is okay, was very good made, was from Excel. They put all the info, but it's a lot of information. I don't know, but I need to get more like deep into the topic to really have conclusions after to seeing this graphic. But here is how can we redesign it. First, a title, and then like you can see only the silhouette of the graphic. We can do that and it's okay, it's right. And then we have like highlighting like some aspect of the graphic, like with the 1 2 3 labels, and it changed the whole narrative of this graphic. I'm gonna continue because time. And for another example, this is communicating to non-expert audience. I think decomplicating charts is something that we all struggle with, especially in scientific papers. And I don't know, many, like also, for example, in the newspaper, we do a lot of things with economics topics. And those are like very complicated for many people to read. And this graphic that is here is very attractive. The colors are okay, maybe, but we see too many categories. They are the color is overload, is only showing percentage, so we can redesign it, and the solution can be this one. We separate the different categories so you can compare better. It's more simple, and this type of graphic, for example, for the probably audience of a newspaper, is very nice. Like people really like it because I think they can compartment information, as we talked before with the first example, like from the Francisca, I think. Like you can compartment and people can read it like as a book, like, okay, this, and then compare. And that is the second reading of the graphic. And also here, there's another proposal of redesigning. This is the Merimeco chart. And you can see the two different categories, and then is detail one category. The not cooling water is here under. We can see that that is that more detail, and also the color is helpful to connect the categories between each other. And you can all do this in Flourish. I would prefer in this case this option because audience get a little bit overwhelmed sometimes with so many information, but this is very complete. It also has the labels in the graphic that is also helpful, so people don't look like, oh, this is the legend, okay, this color means this. That is just usually not very helpful to get the information, but here the redesign puts everything together. And for choosing the right chart type, that I think is always a challenge, I have two, well, in Flourish, I'm gonna show you, but my tip is this website, database project that we can check later. It's I don't know if you know it, it's a bibliothèque. It's a library of graphics that you can see thousands of graphics. And also if you open each of them, you're gonna see examples of the graphic and they tell you which data belongs to this graphic, and I think it's super useful. With this website, I started to do my first infographics also, and it's been useful until now. I can also, like in the newspaper, when people they don't know, like journalists, they don't know what to communicate, I bring them this website and say like, okay, let's see it together. Let's see what the information we have, and let's check what is working with these graphics or not. And it's very, very nice. I put it in the mirror word. You can take it or we can check it also. But in terms of using, like choosing a chart type, it depends again of our goal. If we want to inform, if we want to compare, if we want to show change, organize, or reveal relationships. And in Flourish, we have many graphics we're gonna see. The, for example, for change over time, we have the line graphic and the area graphic, and there is also other options. They look like this. I'm gonna show you later. Size bars are very good. They're very like clear. I think in my personal, maybe because I do so many in a daily basis, I hate them. But you can make it fun. It depends of the title, it depends of the colors, it depends of the layout. But they're so common in newspaper that you have to find the creativity to really engage with people. And this part of a whole, like Merimeko was the one that I was showing you. Sometimes this, I think this is for a more expert, especially Merimeko, for an expert audience. People sometimes get overwhelmed with the graphic because they don't know how to read it. It's not common, but it's also a very creative solution, and it can be very, very fun to show. It depends on how we portrait it. And correlation, in Flourish, we have scatter plot, column plus line. The fun thing of these kind of things is like in Flourish, at least when you do it digital, is that everything can be interactive. So you can point something here and it's gonna show more information. So you see the graphic and it's like this, very beautiful, very, very minimalist. And then you can interact with it and that shows another layer of information. And distribution, dot plot, box plot, and my favorite, Sankey graphic, I love it. We have done it many times in the newspaper to show like flows and change in timeline. For example, I'm gonna show you one example in Flourish. It's so fun to do, but it can be also very tricky to create it on Flourish because you need like a little bit of or pre-organized information, but I think can be so attractive to the audience. It's more, how do you say, organic. And it's not a typical, I don't know, bar, circle lines, and whatsoever. This is Flourish. This is the first thing you see. As you can see, like I was telling you, the different type of charts are all here. This is the very simple ones. You can choose whatever you want to explore, like, and when you click on them, they're gonna have already like examples. Usually, for me, it's very helpful to see how they use it, to see how to put my data on it, because in the newspaper, I have all my data in Excel first, and then I just copy paste in the data set of the Flourish. And sometimes Flourish is interpreting the data the other way. So that's why I have everything clear in Excel, but then I can start manually checking if everything is okay. But I'm gonna show you in a minute. So here are all the graphics, all the types. And as you can see, there are many, many categories. It depends what do you want to communicate and the type of information. Also, you have the maps. In the maps, I would say it's tricky because here you put you can see like in the preview, like these points, you can see this. But here you have to put the longitude and latitude. Sometimes that take a while because I haven't found a fast way of doing more than copy paste. And but at the end, it looks very, very, very beautiful, I would say. And there's like they don't have many specific maps from areas. For example, I don't have Berlin like itself. Sometimes that it can be like challenging, but you can create your own map too. That will take more time, but for country-wise and world maps, it's very, very helpful. And then we have the scatter, like we saw it in the examples. Usually this I don't use it that much in the newspaper because as I said, they don't work with the bigger audience. I think I see this in many scientific paper, and before in my previous job I use them more, but in the newspaper people really don't know how to read it. Well, this is a 3D maps, and this is the one with the pictograms that I told you. Like they come by default, they come with many type of icons that is very basic, and you can like put it. I can show you later, but like these are already for by default in Flourish. Uh, and it's very nice. Like they are very elegant, I would say. This is the interaction, and they're proportionate. Like the it's not like the height of women, and I think can be very playful sometimes in some examples to do so. Marker maps and bar chart race. These, for example, we use them to show how the voting process of the elections in Germany are going, and we put the different candidates and they are doing the race. That is very typical on elections times, and otherwise it's showing always through time. Hierarchy, I love. Well, this is the map that we just saw at the beginning. You can see like this is the type of map. Of course, this is like a lot. It's a lot of information. I found it very beautiful, but one different from the one we saw in the beginning, like they gather things by color. Everything is with a pop-up information, like it's easy to read, um, and so on. And Sankey diagrams, there are many types. I just have used this one for the newspaper, and then there is another that we're gonna discover these ones for now because it's with the database of the museum that I'm gonna show you. And well, there's many more that you can explore. These are for premium. But it's the only one, to be honest. It's not many that you are missing. The other ones are really enough to create amazing things. And actually, what I did at the beginning, for example, when I start with the Flourish, I just opened the line chart or whatever was first, and it's so easy. And I put my data here, and I'm gonna show you with the data set of the of the museum. But I explore from the templates they have, and I start changing things to see how it changed. And here in the bottom, you can see the preview, and then you can see how it changed here. And I start like being playful with it. It's very easy. And what I like the most about Flourish, like I also worked before with Data Wrapper, is like the previews here, I think is way more dynamic, and I can see it better than other platform. And yeah, no, I think it's a lot about being playful. And these are my projects and the things that I've done. And I'm gonna come to the data set of the museum. I have from the beginning this enormous Excel. And as I figure out, like, of course, I'm a non-expert audience. So what I do want to share with the audience in this case maybe is the amount of species in the country. So I'm not gonna take all the information, like all this database for me in this case. It's not that it's not worthful. It's just it's noise in this case. So I take the country, the full name of the species here, and I organize it better. And I did this to organize it better because you need to do this before you put it to Flourish. And then I copy this and transfer to Flourish. Let me share that. Here you put your Excel. And that's what I did with the information from the database. I didn't put all the species to just to show you like what I want to create. And this first data set is what the preview is gonna show us, what it's gonna take from it to visualize it. So the name is clear, like name is here, A, column A, and there goes all the values. And here you can put whatever like columns you have. It depends on how is your data. And for example, for pop-ups that we don't have in this case, you can do an extra column and put the extra information here, like, I don't know, maybe the year that was found, or maybe I don't know, the person who was in the investigation. I don't know. You can put whatever you want in the pop-up info. You just have to name it with the column as I did with the J. And in this case, I was like, okay, like what can I do with so many information? Like we have like so much species, so many countries, and they're not so how can I say, like they're not repeating that much in every country. So I just took like from Europe and I separated the species, saying like, okay, we're gonna talk in this case about the species and using like the variable of the countries. And in this example, we're gonna have different graphics that I'm gonna show you. But I also would love to have in extra information like what, like maybe an icon of the species. That is an extra extra part of the design. But I choose this one. I'm gonna show you then where to find it. It's very like it's in down in the all the bibliothèque of graphics. And as you can see, like you have the species, the countries, and the pop-up information goes like this. It's very easy. And here, when you go to the preview, you have this to the side with all the designing aspect that is, for me, the fun part. Maybe for you, it's gonna be like, I don't know, a nightmare. So we have, in this case, in this graphic, we have shapes. The shape of the star in the middle can be straight. Can you see how it changed? Can be a ring. That doesn't matter how do you want it. Like for me, I like better the star because it shows more like it's more balanced, the visual of each graphic. And here it's easy, like all the aspect of the line. If this is too much information, because in this case the each graphic is very tiny, I put the line like not that thin. But when it's a lot, I would say like just like very thin line width. Here are the colors. You can see here like we have a color for each. That is not necessary. I think this is too much actually. I would choose like as each graphic has their own label, I would choose one color for everything, and that's okay. In this case, that was Flourish giving me as an option. And you can copy the color here like with the do it like this, or copy the RGB, or depending if you have like for printing, you have to code the hex. And that is according like what is your editorial decision, the narrative, what color. Like if this will be about Germany, like Berlin, it will be like Berlin will be red and everything gray. In this case, I don't know, maybe we want to highlight just aciculatus, so we maintain this in red and the rest just gray. I'm gonna show you how it looks. This is very manual. I think like this part takes a lot. And as I see, you all have experience, of course, in Excel and many other like very fancy programs. That this is way more like focused on design. And as you can see, yeah, okay, this is the species that we care about. We're gonna talk about this, and the others are just for comparison. And I like this kind of literal design because it gives us like a clear purpose of communication. Like this is the 5 second highlight that I want to bring to my audience. Like, yeah, there's aciculatus is the most important for this topic, and and I'm gonna highlight that. And let's talk about the others later. I just want to show proportions that how many species are in this catalog. The shape is regarding this. And here is the grid. And here is the no, in the radial axis. This is the grid, how the circle is, how big it is. You can change that like as you want, like depending of the size that you have available. I like to see many like to see as a bibliothèque, a library, like I can go to one and see, and check it. So I would like to see many in the screen, not just one. And actually in the beginning you have this, you can do all combined, that I think is cool. But maybe for printing or for something that you cannot interact is very difficult. But separate also works a lot. And the radial axis is here we changed all the aesthetics of the radial axis, and we can change it depending of or how we say, like the purpose of the communication. Usually we maintain these kind of things in gray because we don't as the flags, we don't want to make more noise, and so we maintain these kind of things very like smooth as gray, or even like black. And like this we can continue for so many so many aspects, like the legend. Here we don't have legend because every single thing is the graphic, but in other graphics that I can show you later, you can edit the legend, and you can click on the legend to make the graphic simple and just choose one variable, and you're gonna see, I don't know, the year 2015, and you choose 2015, and that is the only thing you can see in the graphic. The pop-ups is what I was telling you. The pop-ups at the end are the information that we give here in the J. So, and hello. So here we have the pop-up information. And sometimes we do this, for example, about candidates. Like here we can put, I don't know, more like specific information about the species itself, like aciculatus. I don't know what is an aciculatus, but maybe we can describe it better, or even a link to something else. You can also put it here. But for example, in the newspaper, we describe here, like, I don't know, like if a candidate for a party, like how long have been they working in the party, or what is their policies, highlight policies, I don't know. We put it here, and you can edit it like this, like the width and everything. You have to start trying, like here's a lot of being playful with Flourish, because sometimes you can have like a bigger pop-up, and sometimes it's smaller depending on the space you have. And this is what I like the most of interactive graphics, because we can present something very simple at the beginning, like this one, and then show another layer of information. And I think that is, at least the readers and online magazines, they like a lot to interact with things. It creates a weird engagement of, like, you're being part of the graphic by interacting. And this is what Flourish offers with it, like the pop-up. Animations, to be honest, this doesn't have animation, so doesn't matter in this case. Number styling, well, it depends if it has like many big numbers, how many decimals. This helps with bigger, more complex graphic. Layout, here you can choose the font. We choose this one, as I told you before. This is very good readable and barrier free, and it helps with the different size. Also, I think many, like if you download it and you put it on Illustrator or maybe other program, it will recognize it better. Because sometimes when you download the graphics to edit it by yourself, they can change or move. Like nothing is very perfect. So in this case, with this font, they meant like they're very stable. And here you choose the color of the whole graphic, and well, there's many organizations things, and here we come to the title, the subtitle, the text, and here you can style it each differently. And usually I like to put it not that big titles, but it depends on you. This is so like personal. Also, subtitles in the newspaper, we are forced to put always subtitles to have a like it's like a rule. To be honest, I don't know why, but it gives like another like layer of information, and then we get with the legend. In this case, we don't have any. Here you have a space for a text. You can put it if you want, and the footer to have the source, the author or whatever are all these, and you can align it to the right or to the left, doesn't matter. And here the accessibility that actually I haven't used it. So this is for this graphic. It's a lot of information, I know, but I think it's also very friendly. Well, it's automatic. The how the graphic is made according to the data. So if the top number is 21, it's gonna separate the grid into that. But you can put it manually also. I don't recommend it because Flourish is very I don't know friendly with the data. And this data is very simple. I don't know if you do the same kind, you have the same kind of information to put. But for example, I'm gonna show you some of the work that I've done here. My favorite. This is the Sankey graphic. As you can see, this is the trend of voters in Germany. The data, this is I found it very annoying to do. Like, I don't know, maybe because I'm not an I mean, I'm very friendly to Excel, but this was, you have to do point by point and they change the year to the year change. And for every single party and going year by year. And I think like maybe that can be a little bit like confusing sometimes, but the result is very nice. This was a nightmare to do because also it's not clear and the information out there is not very clear, so we have to investigate a lot. But I think it's a very nice way of making an interaction. And you can see like in this case I didn't change it, but we usually, and that this is important for what we want to communicate, each political party in Germany, as everywhere, have a color. So we always use the color for that, and that is easy in terms of choosing what to choose and what to know when the things are already set up. Like, I don't know, CDU here is I think black, so we always use black. And what other, like we have that, and well, maps are like this. Like, they're very simple to use, but as I said before, you have to always put the longitude and the magnet. No, it wasn't this one, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, I don't know if you have like, this is a lot of exploring. I know can be like a little bit, I don't know, overwhelming, but I think it has many things in common with Excel. And what is most for me attractive is that you can go there and play with all these parts, like the chart type, how to do the colors, and how to change the line. And for example, here you can do like straight instead of a curve. We need like 3 hours more to just tell you about the graphics. Actually, I'm gonna try to make it like faster. And what is important and what I don't know who asked me here in export. You have like this is for online, or you can download an image. Here's the option. I usually download here in CVG so I can re-edit it, edit it by myself in Illustrator. I'm gonna show you. Or we can publish, and usually in the website of the newspaper, I use iframe and I copy this. And the website let me just copy the iframe and it gets immediately interactive. You don't have to do anything. Like, it's so friendly for me because I'm not an expert on that. Is like that is very friendly, and it's what you see in the Flourish is exactly on the other side. And by download the image in CVG, and you have like a Illustrator, because I saw many of you use Illustrator. You download and it shows like this, and I have it here. Here you can edit in ways, for example, I mean, for the purposes maybe that you will have, Flourish is enough with the aesthetics. But here, for example, for example, I will maybe put an icon for each species to show like the family. I don't know. Or if Flourish doesn't have the font that I really, because in the newspaper we have a specific font, I have to change it here, and here I can use whatever font. But this is the problem with this is it's static. We don't have the interaction, and this is just for print. Sometimes we do that. But it's for me as a designer, it's very much easier here to edit. But here it's almost the same. They have the same, and also you can play more with the graphic itself.